Thank you so much, Eden. Hi, everyone. My name is Asma Khan, and I'm so thrilled to be back here at Jubilee with you all. So I also want to follow on by saying that I 100% endorse the power of celebrating joy. As a human rights activist and the author of cookbooks, The Saffron Tales, Zaytoon, and Ripe Figs, my work has taken me across many places across the world commonly associated with conflict. Iran, Palestine, the refugee camps of the Eastern Mediterranean. And what I've seen in these places, in situations far more challenging than ours, which I think is important always to remember, is that in those places, I've seen a deep understanding amongst ordinary people about the importance of cultivating joy. Not just because it's some hippy-dippy fun thing to do, but because joy is the precursor to hope. And hope is one of the building blocks of a resilient life. Not just for yourself, so you can be in service to others. And being in New York, I'm always reminded of the words of the amazing activist and founder of the Catholic worker movement, Dorothy Day, who said that no one has the right to feel hopeless because there's simply too much work to do. Now, food, social change, and hope are the themes that I write about, and you can follow me on Substack, but they are also related to the work of our incredible keynote speaker, who's coming up next, Asma Khan. Now, we're not related, but we have a lot in common. We're both Londoners, we're Muslim, we're mothers, we trained in law, and we're big believers in community, as well as food enthusiasts to the core. Now, I feel quite privileged that I've had the luxury of eating at her incredible restaurant, Darjeeling Express, many times. It serves the most soul-enriching Indian food you can eat, you know, from chili cheese toasties that were inspired by Asma's childhood in Kolkata to the most fragrant, festive biryani that you'll ever eat. Now, Asma was the subject of an incredible episode of The Chef's Table, which if you haven't watched it, I really urge you to do so this weekend. And she's a fierce advocate for women and for also living a life, not letting life, pass you by. But that's not all. She's chef advocate for the World Food Programme, and in 2024, Time magazine named her one of the year's 100 most influential people. Her latest book, Monsoon, Delicious Indian Recipes for Every Day and Every Season, was published this spring, and you're very lucky. She'll be signing copies out there in the snack break, so sign up and you'll be able to meet her in person. Now, Asma is going to be interviewed by an equally inspiring person, the founder of Cherry Bombe, Kerry Diamond. So please give a warm Jubilee welcome to both of them to the stage.
This one?
Yeah, you sit there, I'll sit here. That sounds good. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right. Asma.
I have a feeling of deja vu sitting next to you.
I know. We did this last year at a different place, but I have to thank you for wearing pink and matching the whole stage situation.
I had to.
I appreciate that. I can't tell you what an honor it is for me to be on this stage with Asma Khan. I had the opportunity to interview her last year at Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine conference, and we didn't know each other beforehand. We hung out that morning and went to the farmer's market, and after our talk, I felt like my life had changed. And you are, like Yasmin said, one of the fiercest advocates for women, and just one of the most kick-ass people I've ever met. So I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So ready?
Yes.
Jump in?
Absolutely.
So when we talked last time, you said to me, I am what I am because I was put through fire.
Yeah.
And I think you were referring to your childhood.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I was born a second daughter, and my mother's initial reaction to my birth was not great. Anyone has seen my Chef's Table episode will hear me saying that she cried when I was born. But I know why that happened. My grandmother, who had 5 daughters, and had told my mother, whatever you do, you cannot have another daughter, and sure enough. So this feeling that she was letting down her own mother, her entire family, and for all of anyone in this room who's given birth, it's a traumatic time when you give birth, a time of great joy, but when you also have that feeling that you are letting down everybody, that it's a disappointment. Yes, she was upset, but then she spent her entire life, and till today, of making me feel loved. Even if it is not by saying it, because South Asian women are not great at saying it, she cooks for me, and that's how. But the extended family made it very challenging for me, because it wasn't just that I was the spare and the extra child and the daughter that no one wanted. I was dark-skinned, I was fat, and I was repeatedly told I was ugly. And I loved, maybe as a reaction to how everyone was treating me, I was a tomboy. I loved to play cricket on the streets. And my grandmother would tell me, you're dark and you're fat, and you're going to go out in the sun. No one's going to marry you. So constantly, I remember my neighbor telling my father, this is like watering the neighbor's lawn and neighboring flowers because this girl is going to leave. And it was this whole idea that I didn't fit in, that I was constantly made to feel that I was inadequate. It was very hard because I wasn't the boy that everyone wanted, but more problematic. I wasn't pretty, I wasn't fair, I wasn't princess-like. I come from a royal family, so there's this kind of expectation everyone dresses in a certain way and behaves in a certain way. And this was very hard, because to be made to feel so unwanted by everybody who should have made me feel important, loved, cherished, just made me feel that it was all right to be alive. They didn't do anything. They destroyed everything that they could have deep inside me. But yeah, that was the fire I went through. But then I guess now I look back and think that, I came out of that glistening like gold. Through that fire, everything that was hard to deal with, I learned to cope with. And I understood the joy that was inside me. I understood how strong I was, my resilience. But the biggest lesson I learned was the solidarity of someone else, another female. My sister, who still bloody looks 10 years younger than me. She's my older sister. She looks like a model, and she was beautiful at that young age. She had beautiful hair, and everybody used to call her the princess, and you can guess what they called me. And so she was that beauty. And she would hold my hand and say, not in public because she wasn't that brave, but in private she would hold my hand and say, Asma, you're going to be the warrior princess. The world will shake when you speak, and your words will go out like arrows into the hearts of people, and they will weep because you have something in you. I see it. That is what all of you are doing here as well, because somebody who everybody looked up to, someone who was powerful and beautiful, told me I was beautiful, told me I was powerful, and made me feel invincible. She called me the warrior princess, and she's still the only one who calls me that.
Wow. All right, I think we can end there, right? Yeah. Okay. We're going to fast forward a little bit. You moved to Cambridge with your husband, who was an academic. You had an arranged marriage. You studied law and became the first woman in your family to have a PhD. But you were deeply unhappy and unfulfilled. What was going on?
Can I just say one thing about arranged marriage? Is not a forced marriage, okay? South Asians, we have arranged marriages. It's like, speed dating, but with your entire family involved. So it's just, it's that. I felt restless. I felt I wanted to do something to make a difference to others, because my lived experience had been that someone else's solidarity changed who I was. And I had this confidence. I knew when I walked into a room, you didn't ignore me and you did not forget me. And I'm not saying this with any arrogance, but I know people who I sat and listened to, talked to, would come back and always tell me that we remembered this conversation. And I wanted to do something that was for others. and the PhD, which is, I'm so happy I did it, is a very lonely journey. It's really it's about you and this PhD subject you're working on. And I wanted to do something that gave joy to others. And I had learned to cook by then, and because when I got married, I didn't know how to cook. So my husband was cooking for me. It was a terrible experience. I've still not got over it, but it was so bad. And I then learned to cook, and I realized that, you know, when I cooked, in the aromas of the spices and the food that I ate, I went home. I felt my mother was in the kitchen. My mother was standing next to me. That is the power of food. And at that point, this gray, cold land that I never quite could accept in my heart, England. Even England felt beautiful when I cooked. And that is a big thing. If you've ever been to England in winter, it sucks. And it was not the greatest thing. And so it was that desire to find other souls with broken hearts, to find women whose backbone had been broken by circumstances. I wanted to find people and embrace them through food. Mm-hmm. And this was this kind of restlessness. And, you know, and this is 2012. There was nobody who looked like me, Muslim, immigrant, accented, you know, at the age I was. You know, I began at 45. You know, this is not an age where anybody was giving you a second chance. I had to stay in my track, especially as a woman with the color of skin I had. I had to stay in my track because that's what you're expected to do. I wasn't going to do any of this. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I used to be awake all the time thinking, I want to heal, I want to feed, I want to nourish. And I thought, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll have a food business of sorts. And I began in my house.
Before we talk about exactly what form that took, I want to go back to the fact that you did not cook, because I don't know if anyone's had the pleasure and privilege of going to Darjeeling Express in London. Sorry, I just totally lost track because I went off my questions. Yasmin and I were so lucky to have lunch there a few months ago, and it was easily one of the best meals I have ever had.
Thank you.
And to know that at one point you did not cook at all, and you even said you could not boil an egg.
Yes.
I find that so hard to believe.
But I could eat. So for everybody who has a child who is not interested in helping you but loves food, cherish that child, because that child will one day become a cook, restaurateur. You know, my restaurant's listed in the Michelin Guide. So there's hope. There's hope for all the stubborn kids who just eat. So I was one of those. But I learned to cook really fast because I grew up in the kitchen. I was immersed in this, you know, in the aromas, the sounds. I learned the way that very few of us can learn anymore, which is this immersive experience of standing, watching people cook. The popping of the mustard seeds, the sizzling of the dried red chilies, then the aroma of the saffron infused in milk as it went into the korma. All of that, the sounds, the aromas, the conversations, is this ready, is this not ready? Hearing all of that, I literally learned to cook like in a week. So wow. I think that I could cook very, very fast. The first week I learned all the 4 dishes I wanted to learn. And I knew that I hadn't physically cooked, but I understood what was happening because I have a memory. It was like oral history. It was like stories that my mother was telling me as I cooked. It's just an incredible way to, and such a privilege to learn to cook that way. Mm-hmm.
How did your husband feel about this turnaround?
He was so impressed, but he has never ever come back into the kitchen. So that's the great thing. That he was very shocked when I came back, you know, with this kind of completely knowing how to cook, including biryani, which is quite difficult to make. I knew how to make biryani. I don't think he fully understood what I was doing or where I was going with this food. For him, this was like, oh, I've got a personal chef now. Every day she's making all this thing. I don't think he fully understood what was driving me. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that the smart thing is to do is not to talk to your partner about half-baked ideas. Because they will crush it then. You have a half-baked idea, just kind of work it out, and fake it till you make it. But don't ever go to your partner, your friends, or anyone for approval. You do not need their approval. Just let them watch you rise. That's all.
So Asma, next, you and your husband moved to London, and an observation about the nannies you see and meet changes your life. You told me, I needed to be the person for them who wasn't there for me.
Yes.
What was going on?
From Cambridge, we moved to London, and that's when I had both my kids, and they were going to the local school. I met all these nannies who were South Asian women who were mainly looking after French families. I live in a very French area. Used to be very French before bloody Brexit, but yeah, it was a very French area. I lived there, and I realized that these women are lost, rootless, uprooted. They are far away from their loved ones. And I recognize that. And class, caste, religion are big dividers in India. And for these women, someone like me, being not their faith, so that means Muslims, we don't have caste, but not their class, and they all knew I was royal family. They felt an immediate separation, but I was able to convince them that I am just like you. I came away from my loved ones, isolated, uprooted. I know what's happening to you. Let's be friends. It took time. Like, they would not sit on the same chair, like they would not sit here. They would sit down on the floor. And then eventually what happened, we spent every time we met sitting on the floor, because I knew they can't go lower than that. So if I'm sitting on the floor, they have to sit with me. But it was hard to convince them, but it took a little bit of time. Then they understood. This is the beauty of being an immigrant, when you are far away from your own people, that we can jettison some of the really difficult things in our traditional homeland and try and make a difference, find our people, and collectively help each other break those chains that many women, even if they are living far away from home, keep themselves tied to these chains of patriarchy, of feudalism, and they accept the misogyny, because for them this is like, I am alone. And I wanted all of them to know they're not alone. So there was no one for me when I was going through the stage of feeling very isolated and alone and hungry and eating really bad food cooked by my husband. And I thought, this is like so bad. I used to look at all the birds flying in Cambridge from this window, and I used to think, they're so smart. They're going to some warm land. Now here I'm stuck in this bloody freezing place. But I wanted to be friends with them because I wanted to help. Essentially, it started like that, never imagining, they are my original Spice Girls. They're in my kitchen today. They are, those 5 women, still there in my kitchen. They are the backbone of Darjeeling Express.
That's amazing. So you start cooking together, and then you might not be surprised to hear this, but Asma opens a secret supper club in her home, of all things.
Yes.
Tell us about the supper club.
Well, it's secret, mainly secret from my husband, because I didn't tell him. He's an academic. He's a very serious kind of person. Would not have wanted strangers in their house. Fair enough. I can imagine, actually. That's not him being unreasonable. Most people would not want 45 people sitting in their house and eating. No. So, I thought, why do I have to tell him? Unless I break something or set fire to something, he'll never know. So I kind of, he's an economist. He's a professor of economics. So he travels a lot for research.
Not on Instagram all day.
No. Thank God. At that time, he was not on Facebook. And it's only now that I realized that he's on Instagram. So there was no question that my husband would meet anybody I knew. We had 2 different worlds. So I knew that and everybody was told, if you ever see my husband, do not say that you've seen his library. Do not say you know me or have been to my house. So everybody knew that never to tell him. So I told everybody, I was smart. I told everybody, I'm lying, I'm deceiving, okay? I'm cheating on my husband by just doing the supper club, all right? So no big deal, just keep my secret, and that was it. So I started in my house, and I also knew that he would be away for 3 months. He did a lot of Africa, travel in Africa and the Middle East, and so it was like he was gone and gone for good. I knew for a while. So it's not like I would never risk this if he had gone to Paris, because if his train didn't work and he just came back early, I'd be dead. So no, he was like gone far away. I checked and confirmed he was in South Africa or wherever, and then I did all my events, and there was no question of getting caught, and it worked really well because from my kitchen, serving people plates that I'd gotten my trousseau and around my dining table, playing the playlist of my mother when she used to cook, I created this moment where strangers got together, gathered around my dining table. This was a supper club, and also very strong Indian auntie in me. I got people married this way. I connected up people who were single. Yeah, I've done 3 or 4 very successful weddings. I've connected up lots of people. So that's my kind of, that was the side trick that I was doing.
Do you want to come to New York and do some secret supper clubs?
No, I kind of worked out when I was looking at people, I knew who they were. I'd met them before, so where they had traveled. So very strategically would place them next to each other. Yeah, and the funniest thing is I ended up doing their wedding as a supper club in my own house. Because they said, like, we met here, and this is where love began. And it's so lovely, so romantic as well.
I love that. A lot of you will relate to this next part. You decide you're going to open a restaurant, but you need to raise money.
Yeah.
A lot of women have found themselves in that position. What happens next?
It was awful. The first time this is before the restaurant, I wanted to open a tea shop below my house. I'd gone to my bank. They laughed at me. 3 people in, why should I say people? 3 men in suits. 3 men in suits told me, oh, what a lovely hobby, Mrs. Khan. Call us to your house for tea. And it was so humiliating. Now I needed to raise 185,000 pounds. And the bank was willing to give me 185,000 pounds, thanks to a female in the bank who helped me a lot. So your allies are, interesting. It's fabulous that, you think, I never go to a bank, but the bank needed me to give 185. I spoke to some person who said, oh, they'll invest in me. A lot of bullshit, a lot of complete crap. Then the day before they were supposed to give the money, they said, oh, we've decided to take more shares and, be more in control. And this is when I was like nothing and nobody. I was just opening a restaurant, a small independent restaurant. I was on no television, I'd done nothing, not written a book, done nothing. And so I decided I wasn't going to go. So I sat down this route. I had to pay the 185 the next day. Otherwise, the lease was out. I was going to lose. I cried a lot. And my husband passed me 3-4 times and told me, this is the first time someone else called me a warrior princess. He said, this is not what a warrior princess does. You don't sit and don't get defeated. This is the husband who, when he found out about supper clubs, was so unimpressed, of course, you can imagine, and then also thought that, as a lawyer, he said, if you want to help women, practice, set up a free laws center, do anything. Why are you trying to cook? And he was right. At that time, there was no one using food as a political tool. There was no one who looked like me doing anything. So he was right when he said, you're wasting your life cooking. Don't do this. Don't waste my time. Don't talk about it. So when I was talking about a restaurant, he was like, oh, really? Okay, fine. And then he walked up to me and said, it's taken me a bit of time. I've broken all my savings, and I've transferred the entire money. 185 is going to hit your account. 185,000 pounds. I was like, I am so dead. I cannot believe. But of course, I was very new to all this phone banking. I didn't understand that you can't see the money immediately. It shows up the next day. So that whole night, I cleaned all his clothes. I washed and ironed everything to try, because I was like, oh, I think he's changed his mind. I was too scared, that he told me he'll give. So after I finished ironing everything, he came and told me, Asma, I'm very grateful for this, but here's the money. It's gone from my account. It's not come to yours as yet. I was like, why didn't you tell me earlier? He was saying it was just the joy. I literally hoovered everything. His whole library, I took out all the books and dusted it because I wanted to be near him so that just don't forget I'm here. He said he'd give the money. And then money not coming to my account. I'm looking and looking, it's not there. So I was so scared. So that's how I got the money. But I can tell you one thing. Getting money is the biggest problem. It is really to do with bias. When you are in your 40s and you have not done this before, you do not have a CV which supports what you want to do.
Damn straight, sister.
Yeah, it is crazy. Everybody was like, essentially they're telling you, you can't change lanes. You don't have a right to have a second chance. And at 45, I was made to feel it was too late. I'd missed the bus. And I wanted to tell them, like I tell all my women this every day almost, this is not the autumn of my life. This is the spring of my life. I am my most powerful in my 40s. I am invincible at my 40s because I've been defeated so many times. From the time of my birth to now, in my 40s when I started the restaurant, I was made to feel unwanted, unloved. And the hurdles I fell on, I was determined, not only would I come out of this not bleeding, I would come out of this invincible and so powerful. And the belief was from within. The belief was so strong. And I just thought, I'm going to crush all these people who are not willing to believe in me, not by arguing with them and not having conversations. I'm just going to become so successful, they cannot ignore me. And, but it was tough.
We're going to talk about that restaurant a little bit that you now have today. You're known for your amazing food, but you are also known for your all-female kitchen and your open kitchen. You all know what an open kitchen is, right? That was a non-negotiable for you, the open kitchen. Why was that?
Because, and every woman in this room will know it, what happens to women is our labor, our creativity, our ideas are taken away. In a boardroom, someone says the same thing as you, everyone jumps on that someone else is a gray-suited man, okay? I didn't want that situation where the labor and the love and the energy of women was hidden. The thing with an open kitchen is it comes at a very big price tag. My restaurant's in Soho. Everybody around thinks they live in the bloody Ritz. So you can't have any aroma of the thing. I had to build a steel chimney higher than the highest building. It was eye-watering. I did not have that kind of money. Somehow the other I scraped and managed it because I wanted to open that space so that when you walked in, you saw 9 brown-skinned women laughing and smiling, 3 grandmothers in there. I wanted you to see the hands that labor, and that was very important for me because you don't have women cooking in kitchens.
No. All right, we're going to talk about some food.
Yes.
Tell everybody about the dish you're best known for.
I'm best known for biryani. If you've seen the Chef's Table episode, if you haven't, you'll see why it is. It's a layer of rice and meat. It's a traditional dish. The one that I make is linked to my royal tradition. I am, at this moment, the only person left in my entire clan, and there are 5 clans, who knows how to make this biryani.
Wow.
So it's a very sacred dish, and yeah, it's something that I love making.
Tell us what goes into it, because it's not. You can't just walk in and order it.
Yeah, no, it's not in the normal restaurant menu. It is, you have to actually book it for a supper club, and you come in. It's massive. It's a huge pot. All this other biryani, you go to other Indian restaurants, they're bloody faking it. They're putting rice and thing, and they're just kind of, I don't know why they do it. Our biryani, you need a trolley and 2 men to lift it, because none of us can lift it. It's so heavy. It's layers of meat, and in my tradition of potatoes and saffron-infused milk, and prunes, and then rice, and then more saffron. Then you have to cut through it, and you mix it, and then you serve it. It's so fragrant, that space when the biryani opens. It's a reminder about, for us as Indian Muslims, how much there are many of our dishes are linked to Persia, to Central Asia, and how connected we all are. This whole idea, people got so xenophobic about food nowadays, which is really tiring, because you should acknowledge whether you like them or you don't like them. It's like, the Portuguese got us chilies, potatoes, bread. Oh my God, they got everything. Everybody wants to hate the foreigner who came to our land. Why hate them? They got us all this good stuff. They're all out now. At least acknowledge them.
Let's talk about your brand new cookbook, and congratulations, by the way. I know you love this book and you've been working on it for a long time. The book is called Monsoon.
Yes.
What is special about this book?
This book, I hope for whoever uses it, will be a joy, because the essential thing about Indian food is it's very modular. We put in flavors at different layers. You infuse the oil with something, then you put in the onions, the ginger, garlic, you put in the powdered spices, then whatever you're using, meat, vegetable, fish, then you add another layer of flavoring. Our food began as medicinal. in the East. And what Monsoon is doing, without all this preachy and blinding you with science, I'm taking you through a journey of healing, of nourishment. So the book is divided into six seasons. In Bengal, we have 6 seasons. We don't just go from autumn to winter. I don't know why people think that happens. I mean, but if you're in England, you know, spring can be winter as well. It's like nightmare because the weather is so unpredictable. But I go through this whole thing of, you know, what is in season? What is the season in the East? What's season in the West? But what are you eating in spring? What are you eating in summer? So the chapters really kind of, you know, and in autumn, when it's getting dark and the days are getting shorter, you know, healing, nourishing food. There are things in this book like, you know, stew, a beef stew. People don't know Indian food that well because what you get in Indian restaurants is crap. It's made up food that is easy to make large amounts of. Everything has so too much tomato, ghee, and cream. People probably think we bathe in cream and ghee at home. We don't, okay? It's a hot country, hot, humid. We don't put so much dairy. They're just doing this in the West, okay? Because dairy is cheap. And it's not our food. Our food is really hot. So it's fragrant, it's delicate, it's light. And I've also tried to kind of use ingredients that are easy to find, that you can go. So the 2 things that everyone's loving cooking from a book are the 2 cabbage dishes, which is crazy, but they're loving it. So it's a book that has got 80 recipes, but just joyous recipes. Most importantly, it is about how we eat, where we mix flavors together, entwine them, as if each flavor is an instrument of an orchestra. And we don't have this idea of having a whole bowl of risotto or whatever, like every bite will taste the same. We don't eat that way. I just hope that with Monsoon, you understand how important flavors are and how easy it is to cook. You don't need a lot full of spices. This is a misnomer, please. Indian food is super easy to cook. The reason why you think it's complicated is because idiots are trying to teach you this. Get a nice book, get something like Monsoon. It'll open up a whole new world of flavor for you.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, Asma, I could honestly talk to you for an hour or 2 or 3, but I have one last question for you. You're one of the wisest women I know, and I'm sure you all feel like that in this room now, just having a small taste of how amazing Asma is. I think it's safe to say that most people I know are reeling right now from what's going on in the world and our country in particular, and actually I want to thank you for even coming to the US right now. I appreciate that. Any advice on how we get through the next few years?
You have to know that one thing is that day will always follow night. The night is never endless. It's very important not to imagine that this will be forever. I know it's destructive and I know it's difficult when you are at this point. But you have to imagine, you know, my father would always tell me, before the light of the dawn would break through, he used to make me listen to the birds and say, they're telling you dawn is coming. You are one of those birds that are telling everybody the dawn will come. You've got to believe, and there are a room full of people here who are positive. Hope and belief, and spread the light in that darkness, even if it seems it's not making a difference, because our time will come and we will overcome.
Yes. I know you all want more Asma. You can go home and watch her Chef's Table on Netflix. It's wonderful if you haven't seen it already. And like Yasmin said, she will be signing books during snack break. So thank you, Asma. Stay tuned. We have one more speaker. Don't go anywhere. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.